and welcome to a special edition of the Doctor's Corner. I'm your host, Dr. Mark Pinsky, and today it's Teacher Appreciation Day. To help me celebrate Teacher Appreciation Day, Sue DeMarco. Sue DeMarco is here because I am convinced that we need to inspire our teachers for the new year. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about all the things that we can do for this new year for our teachers who I think are mistreated, and we're going to help them be inspired and help the new year be a much healthier, brighter year. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So Sue, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tell them where you teach.
Okay. I teach at Holland Elementary in Satellite Beach.
And what grades do you teach?
I actually teach kindergarten through third grade. I'm in a varying exceptionalities class. And so I have a diverse population and I'm always kind of going and it's always something new, which I enjoy very much.
Okay, great. So Sue and I know each other, what, 20 years?
Probably. Maybe a little bit more.
More than that?
Yeah,
Okay.
A little bit.
So Sue is now a patient of mine, but long before she was a patient of mine, her husband's been a patient of mine. And so Sue and I have known each other and the kids for all this period of time.
Yes.
And Sue, tell the story about how you decided on this particular journey, which we're going to tell them what the journey is. Okay, so tell them how you started and what made you do it.
Okay. Well, like you said, my husband Frank was a patient of yours before I was, and he got started on the journey and started taking some of the vitamins and the supplements. And as he is very much a rule follower and he listens to the advice of you always, he had everything on auto ship. So, and it was on a subscribe and there was lots of product in my pantry. So I started to do inventory and said, hey, honey, we have 12 bags of this protein shake. Do you mind if I maybe have some? He said, oh, yeah, sure, absolutely. And that's kind of how it got started. And I started with the shakes and I loved them and I loved the energy and how it made me feel. So that's kind of how I got started.
Okay, so let's go back here a little bit.
Sure.
So Frank came to me and asked me to help him lose weight. And, you know, he had some health issues that required that weight loss. And so he did not enroll in my formal weight loss program, but he asked me how he could do this journey. So part of that journey was teaching him how to eat, right? Teaching him proportions of food, teaching him what quantities of food he should eat. And then part of that was also involved supplementation, which is what Sue is referring to. So I work with a company called ID Life, as you all know, and that company has a variety of different products. And so Frank partook in some of those products.
He did.
But obviously he didn't totally partake.
Obviously, right? He couldn't keep up with the amount.
So there was leftover product.
There was leftover product.
Now, Frank did incredibly well. He lost
Yes,
huge amount of weight. And so he's done incredibly well.
Yes.
And so Sue decided, well, if Frank could do it,
I could
do it too. And of course, we all know that as Jersey people, we are very competitive. So yes, she has done incredibly well. And so let's talk a little bit about what you wanted to do, and then let's talk about what we've done since then. So let's go back.
Okay.
And let's say, okay, you decided to take these shakes, you decided to take these, and how did you do it? Because I think that there is no set pattern, is what I'm trying to get across to people. There's multitudes of ways to do this, and I like to customize it, as they know, and individualize programs. So tell me what you did that really helped you get started.
I think the first thing that I did was in talking with you and then just talking with Frank, I just said, I'll just replace my breakfast with the shake. So I started with that. And being a teacher, obviously working early hours, I needed something quick and on the go. Right. So it was easy for me to do that. And I said, I'll start out with that. And then I'll just try to make smart meal choices.
Right.
It's very easy being a teacher and being in the classroom and grabbing things that maybe are not so healthy choices. Right. So I started just with the shakes and then just said, I'm going to prep and I'm going to try to make sure I'm eating those fruits and vegetables and the lean proteins. And that's kind of how I got started. And then from there, the energy level was really great. And then I started losing weight. So I continued on the journey.
Okay, perfect. Now, so Sue didn't have any formalized numbers, which is what I'm trying to get across. You know, with Frank, I had some formalized numbers. And of course, as you say, Frank's a rule follower. Yes. So I like to use the application MyFitnessPal. And so what I did was I told Frank, based upon an in-body analysis, it's a scale you stand on, so I know what his basal metabolic rate is. I know what his calorie count should be based upon that basal metabolic rate and what he wants to weigh. So it makes it very easy. It takes all the guesswork out. I didn't do that with Sue because I didn't even know she was doing this.
Right.
So what I'm trying to say is you don't need to get that formal. You don't need to get that crazy to do it. You just have to make some changes. And I think that that's the message. So again, she probably changed when she says portion sizes. I'm sure she realized, hey, I was probably eating too much of this. I wasn't eating enough of that. So did you cut out carbs? Did you cut out snacking? What was the methodology?
I think I tried to cut out processed foods. I tried to cut out sugar.
Right.
I tried to cut out just general snacks that are not necessarily good and replace it with a healthy option.
Okay.
And that's kind of how it started.
Right. So that, again, fits in. We often talk about this on the show. You want to do balance, feed, and move, right? Those are 3 basic steps. Now, Sue's heard me say this God knows how many times already.
Yeah.
But the balance step is probably the most important step. Why? What are you trying to do? You're trying to revert back to what you were like at 20. And I know people say that's impossible, but you can reverse your metabolism because your body wants to do it. So you just have to teach your body how to do it. Yes, and there comes some sacrifice and there comes some change. But I tell everybody, if you do it for 28 days, in general, you don't really miss a lot of that stuff. Matter of fact, a lot of times when you go to cheat and you go back the other way, you feel kind of bad. I just got back from a ski trip to Park City. I gained 5 pounds of fat.
Oh, no.
Okay? So I feel terrible, but now that I'm back and I'm doing my plan, I feel much, much better. So again, once you get there, it doesn't take a lot to make it go back away because the body has memory and it will revert back. All right? So let's talk about the balance step because that's something that you've done, but you didn't even know necessarily that you were doing it, right?
Exactly.
So one of the big parts of the balance step is hydration, right? We tell everybody all the time, how you need to hydrate. So what's the formula we use? We say take half your body weight in ounces of water, and that's what it is. So if you're a 200-pound man, you have to take in 100 ounces of water a day. Now that includes everything. So if you put it in your shake, that counts. It's water though in general because I don't want you substituting with caffeinated beverages.
Right.
Okay, so water in general. If you go and exercise, you have to add 20% more to that number. And if you're exercising outside where it's really hot and humid, you have to add 20% more. Okay, that's general. So hydration, super important in the step. We talk about sleep, right? It seems like nobody in America sleeps. And, you know, after COVID, of course, nobody sleeps because everybody's paranoid. So now nobody sleeps, i.e. Jeremy Gonzalez, who doesn't sleep because he's paranoid. That's my executive producer. So I'm going to get you involved in the show, Jeremy. So sleep, what's the formula for sleep? The formula for sleep is we want to get about 7 hours. We would ideally like to get 8 hours, but understand that that's almost impossible. Right. Truth be told is if your body adapts to 6 hours, 6.5 hours, 7 hours, you'll probably do okay. What's the problem with not sleeping? Well, what do you do when you sleep? You burn calories, right? So if you don't sleep, your body is actually working, but you're not burning anything off. And so the whole idea is if you're going to calorie restrict yourself, then you actually have to restrict about 250, 300 calories more. So when I do train patients in the weight loss clinic, I teach them on the days you don't sleep, cut back. Okay, you really got to cut back. And it's a balancing act if you're going to work out that day. Because if you're going to work out that day, you have to find the magic balance. You may not be able to cut out 250 calories. Maybe you only can cut out 100 calories. You will find your zone as to what works for you. Okay. It doesn't have to be exact, right? So hydration, sleep, right? And then micronutrients, right? So you mentioned vitamins. So one of the ways to figure out what your vitamins are is ID Life created a health assessment. Mm-hmm. That health assessment is HIPAA compliant. It takes about 8 to 10 minutes to complete. It's based on about 6,000 algorithms, over 3 million combination possibilities, all based on scientific journals. So over 10,000 scientific journals. And then you and I know that we could even link our DNA to that. We'll get to that a little bit later. But that allows you to have micronutrients. What's the important part about that? Well, you can eat all of the right things. But if your micronutrients aren't right, and to be honest with you, if this were 1880, I've said this a million times, if this were 1880, we wouldn't even have this conversation because you would be able to go to your backyard, get your organic produce, get your food, whether it be beef or fish or whatever, chicken, and it would all be organic. But
Right.
because everything is so processed, to your point, you need to substitute and supplement micronutrients. Your body, your cells, every cell of your body becomes efficient by its micronutrient. And you can't just get micronutrients anywhere, because if you go to get them at certain stores, right, certain vitamin stores, the problem is that so many of those don't do any testing. So we always want to get really high quality products where people can have know that what they're taking is really going to work. Okay. So that's the micronutrient part. The feed part, right, involves your macronutrients, which is what you sort of described. Right? You sort of described, I'm going to change how I eat. Right? I'm going to change my pattern. So one question for you is, did you skip meals, or did you try to keep your meals fairly consistent?
I definitely didn't skip meals. I definitely tried to keep it very consistent. And even if I had, 3 main meals and then just had some snacks in there,
Right.
I think it definitely lending itself to the job I do. We have planning periods and we have
Right.
break times. So having those planned healthy snacks in between helped.
Okay, you mentioned something very important, which nobody ever wants to do, but it is probably the most important thing to do.
Yes.
Meal prep.
Yes.
I know it's like this daunting thing. You say, oh, I can't do it. But it honestly saves you so much time in the end, because you're not racing around trying to grab stuff. When you're hungry, you're going to grab whatever you can find, right? So talk about whatever your meal prep is, because I think your teachers would want to know, well, what, Sue's so busy like we are. What could she possibly do to make the meal prep simple?
Well, typically what we do Sunday, Frank, if we buy a bunch of protein, if it's chicken or turkey burgers, he'll grill a bunch of food. So then we'll have the protein, and then I'll fill in and kind of just make either it's quinoa, or we'll make some brown rice, or roast some vegetables. So then I like to make everything ahead of time.
Right.
So as we're ready to make lunches, I can just set out all the containers. Everybody can kind of make what they want and then go.
I love that.
If I don't do that, then it's
It's
exactly
chaos.
what you
Yeah,
said.
it's
It's,
chaos.
I mean, and it was today, unfortunately, I didn't do that. So it was me picking, well, okay, I'll take some hard-boiled eggs, and there's some green beans. I still made good choices.
Right.
But I was more frazzled, and the planning portion is definitely very important.
But I think that that's an important point again. You've learned that if you have to,
Yes.
you know how to do that. Right?
Yes.
I think so many people don't know how to do that. They wouldn't even know where to start to do that.
Right.
So because of your prep, it's in your head. So again, one of the things I talk about, what I did with Frank, you didn't have to do it, was I try to get people to really do MyFitnessPal. It's a little bit, it's a daunting, it's a little bit of
Yes.
work, and a lot of people don't want to do it. Does that mean I ask you to do it for the rest of your life? Of course not. I mean, I don't do it now because I know what I'm doing. But there comes some times where I'm a little off. Maybe I've done more cheating than I think I've done, and then putting it in MyFitnessPal is a good thing.
Absolutely.
So I like that, because you got the family involved, and I think that's one thing you teachers probably do better than anybody, is try to get your family involved, because that, if you don't teach them, they're never going to learn. And
Yes.
right now they're used to eating, unfortunately, junk, right? And so that's what happens. And cardiovascular disease and diabetes is not on the decline, which I find just mind-blowing, that in the number one country in the world, supposedly for medicine and health and wellness, that we actually have not made a dent in the 2 biggest disease states that we have. It doesn't make any sense, right? I think it's because we're a little spoiled, right? We have too much. And so teaching the kids is really an awesome thing. So I do applaud you for that. The move part, let's talk a little bit about, because I think that people think that they have to do this incredibly intense formal exercise routine in order to gain benefit from it, or it doesn't count. So let's talk a little bit about what you did there.
And I guess that would probably be the portion that I always think I could improve on personally. It's just setting aside time just for me to go do something and to exercise. But what I've tried to do is just make an effort to just be active, however that is during the day. Obviously, with my job, I'm definitely active.
right.
And I always try to, track my steps and stay within like at least 8 to 10,000. I feel like at least I'm moving a little bit. So that's kind of what I did. Sometimes just, just trying to get out there and do what I can do as far as even as stuff around the house and things like that, just trying to stay active. But that's definitely something I think I need to improve on.
Well, but that's my point. My point is it doesn't necessarily have to be a formal exercise routine. Of course, I would love that.
Right.
But I tell all the patients in the weight loss clinic, the whole idea is to just move, right? You have to establish a habit. So what generally happens, there's people who just refuse to exercise. They just hate to exercise. And if I want you to think about this, let's just think about it. One of the things is that if you move, right, you have a way to offset if you have a bad nutrition day.
Right.
If you don't, you're relying on your nutrition to be 100% perfect every time. And that's never going to happen. Even for somebody like me, it's just not going to happen. So I look at exercise like I exercise so I can cheat. If I don't exercise, I can't cheat.
Right. Right.
And I agree with you. It doesn't have to be this grandiose thing. You should set the goal to walk 30 minutes 5 times a week. And I say that particularly for my ladies, because I want you to understand that to phase off, and for some of you who are susceptible to osteoporosis, you want to do weight-bearing exercise 5 days a week for at least 30 minutes. That's super important. Okay? So it doesn't have to be this grandiose plan. Move. And then it may take on a life form of its own. What do I mean by that? Well, maybe you really actually like it. And then you start to think about things you want to do. It's hard for me to create exercise programs for people because if I say to you, hey, listen, go out and play 2 hours of basketball today, you're going to look at me like I got 10 of heads, and you're going to basically flip your finger up and say, I'm not doing that. Well, you may not do that. But you just, again, it's not something you're going to do.
Yeah.
So everybody has to kind of find their own jam, what they like to
Right.
do. Patients come up with things all the time. There's a patient came up to me before, said, I'm going to play pickleball, doc. And I'm like, okay. So again, it doesn't have to be anything that I might think is formal exercise,
Right.
but if you're going to do it, you do
stick
it.
with it.
Makes sense,
Right.
right? All right. Let's talk a little bit about what else you're doing supplementation wise. So you're doing your vitamins to do your micronutrients.
Yes.
You're doing your macros appropriately. What other supplements? You're doing your shakes.
I do the shakes,
Okay,
yes.
and then you do an energy drink in the morning, right?
Actually, I don't do
do
the
it?
energy drink. I do the hydrate. I definitely do the hydrate twice a day. Every once in a while, I sometimes will try the energy drink, but more the
You
hydrate.
don't need energy.
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Yeah,
I
you
think
don't
I'm
need
good
it.
with that. Just mostly the hydrate. And I find as if I don't, then it tends to be if it's like in the afternoon and I haven't had it, it's something that I crave.
Right.
you
So I'm going
get
to explain
used to
that
it.
a little bit. Right?
Okay.
So hydrate is a hydration or fluid replacement drink that is from ID Life. What makes it different is it has absolutely no sugar in it. It's all flavored by stevia. What makes it also special is that it has the perfect balance of electrolytes, where other replacement drinks focus most on sodium. They do not focus on sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium. And this has all of those in a 1-to-1-to-1-to-1 ratio, perfectly the way the cells want it. People who are my exercisers, but people who are even not, right? During the day, you just pointed that out. You just don't feel the same if you don't have it. And I agree with you. I do 2 of them a day also. And I do feel whether I exercise or not, I do feel it makes a huge difference. Helps because even if I don't get enough water in, even if I'm a little short of my fluid intake,
Right.
it definitely helps make up the difference. That's what I feel. Now I do energy in the morning. Energy is another product from ID Life, which God knows Sue does not need.
No, I don't need that. Frank
but
does it. Frank does do it.
Frank
every morning.
needs it.
Yes, he
Right?
needs it.
So energy is a drink, basically powder that you put into a liquid. It's a drink, and it has 75 milligrams of caffeine that's instantaneously released, so it's less than a cup of coffee.
Okay.
And then it has 75 milligrams of caffeine that's encapsulated and released over 4 to 6 hours. No crash, no burn. It's just fantastic. What do I like about it? 5 minutes after I take it in the morning, it releases choline and L-acetylcarnitine, which is a brain chemical stimulator. I'm working 5 minutes after I take it in the morning, right? No matter how tired I am.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. It really is amazing. And I don't get the jitters. I don't have any of those withdrawals. I have nothing.
Yeah.
Now, I don't do it in the afternoon because I'm extremely sensitive to caffeine. And so if I took it in the afternoon, I don't think my body would handle it very well.
Right.
All right. So the other thing that you and I have done
Yes.
is that we're quite fond of is the detox.
Yes. Love the detox.
We love the detox. So
do.
why do you love the detox?
I have to say that the biggest reason would be energy. I honestly feel like I could just run over the causeway to work. I mean, I feel like I have so much energy when I take it. So I tend to take it probably more often, and you have said that you can talk about that, but I just feel like it just gives me a crazy amount of energy. I feel very lighter, I guess, less bloated.
Right.
The energy is through the roof. That's the biggest reason for me, for sure.
And so everybody's journey is a little bit different, as we've pointed out throughout this entire show. But the detox that was designed by ID Life actually is a true detox, right? So it works on all 3 detoxification systems. It is not just a cleanse. A cleanse where people just, poop their brains out. That's not what this is about. But it works on the liver to detoxify. It works on the kidney to detoxify. And yes, it does work on the gut. Now, as you and I have talked about, Detox 2.0, which came out earlier at the end of last year, beginning of this year, really was a game changer because they took some of the first components out. They took the psyllium husk out along with senna, and they put it into a drink, right? So you don't have to do the cleanse if you don't want to. You can just do the regular detox if you want to. I think you gain pretty close to the same benefit. At least that's been my experience.
Okay.
Now, I guess it's because I eat fairly clean. I suppose if I didn't, even when I came back from Park City and I thought, oh my God, I did terrible there. I didn't have an awful experience with the cleanse, but I didn't feel like I had to do it as often. You can do it 5 days. You could do it in the middle of the detox. You do it at the end of the detox. It doesn't really matter. You can not do it. You can do it by itself. So it's a totally separate kind of a system. What I like about it is there are different phases of the actual detox. So we're in phase 1 right now. And we're on day 5, on day 5 of the detox.
Yes.
And so I'm going to ask you, do you notice the energy in the first phase, or you notice it more in the second phase, or does it matter for you? You have it throughout the entire thing.
I think I notice it more in the second phase.
That makes sense.
Definitely.
Right.
I think I'm energetic and excited about it. So I think that I want to be energetic, but I don't think it really kicks in until the second phase.
So I'm going to tell you why I think that happens.
Okay.
Right? So the first phase of the detox, Jeremy and I were talking about this morning. So the first phase of the detox, you start with 2 capsules. One is, and by the way, it's pills. It's not the only part that's liquid is the cleanse. So the rest of it's capsules. Certain capsules in the morning and certain capsules at night. And in the beginning, it's a little bit of gut, and it's mostly kidney, right? And then day 3, liver kicks in, right? So why is that a big deal? Okay. The day 3, when the liver kicks in, it becomes a big deal because your liver is now kicked up to get all the junk out. So what's the problem with that? The liver works and detoxifies mostly 2 to 4 a.m. Hello, that's prime time for sleeping. So so the last 2 days I was like, what is going on? And then I remembered. I have experienced that every single detox.
That's
it is
funny.
not coincidence, and it's definitely something that people talk about. So I'm really looking forward to tomorrow when that is gone, and and then what will happen for the rest of the detox is I will sleep like I'll be out. I will sleep like a baby. Yes. But it tells me that the detox is actually working. What makes this detox box different than the first one is they added what they call microbiome defense. Oh. Microbiome defense actually works on parasites. So they knew that they missed that on the first box. It was extremely important. I thought to myself, I'm not thinking that's a big deal. It's a big deal. To boost that, they put in olive oil because what were they saying? Well, you're shedding and killing all this stuff, but then your body's partially reabsorbing it. So now you got to detoxify from that. Okay. So what did they do? By putting olive oil in, it doesn't allow the resorption back of the parasites. I mean, it's brilliant. Makes sense. Reason why you gain more energy in the second week is because it introduces black cumin seed. Black cumin seed kills yeast and fungi. Now, what's the problem? The problem with that is sometimes you get a real carbohydrate craving for about 2 or 3 days. Like, you're like, what is going on here? And then, bam, it ends as soon as the fungi and yeast predominantly get killed off. So it's another way for me to know that it really is working. The results on the detox have been absolutely off the charts. And I, as Jeremy knows, and you probably know too, I've probably said it 1,000 times because I'm super proud of it, is that in 2.5 months, I lost 4% body fat. Awesome. And that was me supposedly knowing what I'm doing. But the detox was a big bonus.
That's awesome.
So that was a big thing. So from a nutritional standpoint. And then we sort of mentioned a little bit one more thing was we mentioned DNA.
Yes.
One of the big things about Idea Life is they're all about science. So the scientific basis of DNA and using your own DNA to actually tap into what nutrients you should be taking in and how you should be eating, and then putting together a fitness program based upon your own DNA is unbelievable. They have taken all the guesswork out by doing what they call a genetic action plan. So you literally just plug in things and it spits out 58 pages of information, easily understood. I mean, it's bullet pointed.
It is.
It's very, very easy to
clear.
do, right? Very clear, right?
Very clear.
And it totally, even a guy like me, it totally changed what I do. So again, that also helped me do that. Perfect example. If I were to go and do the ketogenic diet, this is why I tell everybody, you're an individual, be treated like an individual. So if a keto works for some people, great. You hit the magic dart. You threw that dart and it hit the target perfectly, but other people will throw that dart and it will not hit that target. If I were to go to do keto, it'd be a disaster for me because my DNA says that my saturated fat has to be less than 10%. I proved that when I went to Park City. It was not less than 10%, and I gained 5 pounds of fat. But it also said that I could take in carbs. They just had to be really good carbs, right? So they had to be really, really solid carbs and fruits and vegetables and things like that. Avoiding grains. Was very important for me, which I proved myself a long time ago. Processed foods, and I have to keep my sugar down to less than 36 grams a day.
Okay.
That all came from my DNA analysis. So I think that from our standpoint, we really have learned a lot through the science of Idea Life, and I think that's also helped take us to the next level.
Absolutely.
Okay. So anything else you want to say before we wrap up? Because we've given a ton of information. So you think we covered it all?
Yeah, I think that we've covered it all.
All right. I'm going to tell you, teachers, you need to take care of yourself. These are crazy times, okay? And I don't think people respect you the way they should, and I'm fully appreciate all of that. But we're going to try to hopefully inspire you to take care of yourself because you only have yourself and each other to take care of. So let you know that there's people out there that do care about you. There's people out there that love you, and there's people out there that do respect what you do for their kids. And we are truly grateful for all you do. So for Sue DeMarco, I am Dr. Mark Pinsky. You've been watching The Doctor's Corner. Take care. This is Dr. Mark Pinsky once again, asking you to forward questions to us, whether regarding this episode or any of our past episodes, at drmarkscorner@gmail.com. Also, don't forget to check us out on our website, pinskywellness.com or pinskyweightloss.com. We look forward to hearing all of your questions, and we'll get back to you as soon as we do. Y'all have a great week.